Xiaomi just launched the Poco X5 Pro and Poco X5, and these devices released on Xiaomi's MIUI 14 based on Android 12. That's right. We're halfway through the first quarter of 2023, and your favorite Chinese company is launching a new device on an obsolete version of Android. And they did this because they started a war that they cannot win. Now, many of you may know that before Xiaomi was a brand that made phones, it had a MIUI. And MIUI was a custom Android ROM meant for the Chinese market. It was meant to emulate a lot of the features Apple had incorporated into iOS, and ultimately, Xiaomi was started as an enthusiast brand. Now, as you know, I am a big fan of Xiaomi, and I own a lot of their products right now. In fact, my Pixel 7 Pro is charging on one of their Qi wireless chargers. I'm wearing a Mi Band 7, I have a Xiaomi toothbrush, and I have a variety of other Xiaomi products. That said, when it comes to smartphones, they entered into a war with other Chinese brands that ultimately will be a war that the consumer loses. There's no better proof of this price war than what we have here, with the brand releasing its newest kind of mid-entry level phone and giving it an outdated operating system with the promise of 2 Android updates. This is essentially gaming consumers because while Android gets updated every year, this phone will only receive 1 worthwhile Android update and 4 years of security patches. Now, I don't want you to think that these devices are going to be bad devices or overpriced devices or devices that you shouldn't buy, because the truth of the matter is that they are releasing phones at price points that are extremely aggressive and extremely competitive. The entire reason that we got to this ultra competitive price point is because consumers are the ones that are going to lose. Unlike prior mid-range devices from years past, most of, if not all, mid-range SoCs from the likes of MediaTek and Snapdragon can easily support Android and provide solid performance for a minimum of 2, if not 3 years. Because device performance has gotten better, we've seen a sharp decline in smartphone sales globally. And Xiaomi has felt this more than ever. They had a huge decline in their market share with their recent global sales. Now, along with this, we see 2 and even 3-year-old chipsets being used in brand new devices today as a stopgap for like mid-range SoCs. In fact, mid-range SoCs are kind of pointless now because the Snapdragon 865 has come down so much in price. And a great example of this would be devices that are launched today on the Snapdragon 865. And for most tasks, they perform kind of like a flagship. I mean, you only really see the difference in performance in kind of those fringe use cases. But with this plateau in performance, or plateau in user experience performance, comes a new burden that manufacturers are trying to handle: how they can delineate their phones from year to year with new software features to fundamentally change the user experience, because hardware is relatively similar and performance is kind of relatively similar. Because now that smartphone hardware is relatively ubiquitous, smartphone software has become the key leading edge and the kind of the key unique selling point that makes someone want to purchase one device over another. And this is where smartphone buyers are the losing recipients of this ongoing price war between manufacturers. Brands such as Realme, Redmi, and Poco are consistently trying to find ways to take the price of their products down while still adding features that entice consumers to their devices. And this kind of just brings us to the inspiration for today's video. Xiaomi launching a brand new phone under the Poco name in 2023, 6.5 months after Android 13 was released, and with the Poco brand, you're offered 2 years of updates and 4 years of security patches, which means when the new version of Android comes out in 5.5 months, you're only going to be getting updated to Android 14. Now, this is an extremely deceptive move from the brand, and I would say that's teetering on the verge of being an outright lie to consumers. It's extremely deceptive because the brand is not actually offering you 2 years of updates. And it's likely that this device will get an Android 13 update in the next 2 to 3 months. So unless you buy the device when it comes out, you're going to get one major Android update and that's it. Not that full promised 2 years of updates, because devices launching on a version of Android that's 6.5 months old. And while I understand that the difference between Android 12L and Android 13 might not be the biggest difference in the world, it doesn't change the fact that Xiaomi is giving you one version of Android as an update, and they're kind of just telling you that it's two. Kind of a bait and switch. And this isn't the first time that this brand has done this. If you remember the Xiaomi Mi 12X that was released, the brand released all of the other Xiaomi 12 series of devices on Android 13. And they offered 3 years of Android updates and touted that now that all Xiaomi phones would have 3 years of Android updates. It was one of the ways that they wanted to make the Xiaomi brand different from the Poco brand and different from the Redmi brand. But because the Xiaomi 12X was the cheapest model, they chose to give it 1 year less support and hide that by launching it on Android 12 when all of the other Xiaomi 12 devices were launched on Android 13. Literally a bait and switch. Now, things like this are precisely how users are the end losers of this price war, because they will not get the newest features that Google pushes into Android. And this is also clearly a cost-cutting measure from the brand. But with such a short update support window, as in such a short period of time you're going to get updates, wouldn't you be better off getting a used S21 now that the S23 is out and you can get an S21 for much cheaper, a Pixel 6a, or maybe even, gasp, a used iPhone? I mean, at the $300 mark, you can get a lot of really decent phones for right in this price bracket used, and even with some sales and in certain markets, you can get a new Pixel 6a for $299, and it's going to offer you significantly faster storage, a better chipset, and a better camera. Either way, as we see brands cutting corners, it's making slightly older used high-end or mid to high-end handsets an even better deal than ever, because the reality of it is that your used S21 that you buy will have the same lifespan in regards to Android updates as the brand new Poco X5 Pro or Poco X5. And unfortunately, we see Xiaomi kind of reverting back to their old tricks of trying to cheap out and kind of cheat consumers and hiding it in a shady way. Whether or not you want to buy a used device is up to you. But personally, I think that this is a horrible move from Xiaomi. Realme isn't launching any devices on Android 12 right now. And the fact that they are touting that you're going to get 2 years of Android updates when they launch a device on a version of Android that's already outdated so they can give you one version of Android essentially is just unacceptable. But what do you think?